Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jeb, Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage here in Huntington Beach, and today we're going to talk about property taxes. I get a lot of questions about property taxes related primarily to two different questions, and those questions are, do my property taxes go up every year, and can I transfer my property taxes? So both of those questions fall under Proposition 13, so Prop 13 in California. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Prop 13, what it is, how it came about, to give you a little bit more ammunition, if you will, in having those conversations with other people, and also to help guide you if you're, looking to potentially transfer your taxes or have tax-related questions with regards to property taxes in the state of California on residential property. So Proposition 13 came about in 1978. So it was enacted, it was voted on by California voters, and the California Constitution was actually amended once it was passed. And what it did was it basically set property taxes at 1% of the real value of the property based on values at that time in 1976. So prior to Proposition 13, what happened is property taxes went up and up every year. So whatever the value of your house was, your property taxes would reflect the value of that property. And so in 1978, when it was passed, part of the legislation or the agreement or the bill or what have you at that time was to roll it back to 1976. So values reflected the value at 1976, and that kind of set the values for that point. And then what happened is, as you bought property going forward, how Prop 13 works or taxes work in the state of California is that you actually pay 1% of the value of the property. It's 1%. Now, a lot of counties are like 1.25%, 1.1%, but the reason that they're more than 1% is because you have school bonds and different things that are added onto the actual property tax. And so that's why your property tax, percentage might be higher than 1%, but in the state of California, the base tax rate is 1% on real property. And in this conversation, real property, we're talking about real estate. When you buy a property, the value of your property is the tax basis rather. Let me slow down. Your property taxes are based on 1% of the value of the property when you buy the property. So if you buy a property for, hypothetically, say $500,000, your tax basis is 1% plus any other measures or bonds or whatever they have in that county, and then your property tax is, say, 1.1%. So in Huntington Beach right now, my property tax basis is somewhere around 1.1%. And so what happens is, when I bought my property, it was based on that 1.1%. And a question often comes up: can your property taxes come up? Can they go up every year? Well, part of Prop 13, what it did was it restricted property taxes from being able to increase every year at whatever the value was. It is the most it can go up is 2% per year, but it adjusts basically to California Consumer Price Index. And so, however the CPI adjusts is how your property taxes adjust, but they can't go up more than 2% per year. So the most you can increase year over year is 2%. And now keep in mind, as property decrease in value, your property taxes don't necessarily go down, right? So, they really only adjust as properties increase. As values start to decline, if we get into a time like we did back in 07, 08, where property taxes were declining because of the recession, what have you, they didn't automatically just lower your tax rate because property values were going down. Now, there was, at least here in Huntington Beach, there was a form you could fill out, provide comparable data of properties, etc., and actually have them reduce your property taxes. So there was a way at that time to have your property taxes reduced, but without you going to them directly to have it reduced, they weren't reducing them, right? So, that's how property taxes work in the state of California. And now, so the other question is, with Prop 13, how can can you transfer your taxes? And the answer is yes. There's a lot of requirements that go into this, but the base requirements are that if you have to be at least 55 years old, and it has to be your primary residence. So if you meet those two requirements, then chances are you can potentially transfer your tax base to another property. Now keep in mind, it only makes sense if your property taxes on your property are less than the property that you're buying, right? And that's the reason that you would want to transfer those tax bases. Now, a lot of people say, hey, can I use Prop 13 and transfer my tax bases? Yes, but it's actually Prop 60 that allows you to transfer your tax bases. So there's two additional propositions in addition to Prop 13 that we need to talk about, and that's Prop 60 and Prop 90. Now, Prop 60 allows you to transfer your tax base to a property in the same county, whereas Prop 90 allows you to transfer that tax base to other counties. Now, keep in mind, in the state of California, not every county is part of that proposition, right? So just because you're moving in the state of California doesn't necessarily mean you can transfer your tax bases. You have to make sure that that county is part of that proposition in order to transfer that tax base. So that's the basics of how Prop 13 works. There's a lot of questions out there about Prop 13. One of the other things that Prop 13 did that's not pertaining to property per se, but it requires a 2/3 vote from voters. Requires 2/3 approval of voters in the state of California. In order to, for any property tax, sales tax increases, any increases in taxes in the state of California requires a 2/3 vote by the voters. And that was something that Prop 13 did as well. So, it's a really good measure. I know there's some stuff out there talking about Prop 13 reform, what have you. Just make sure that you understand what Prop 13 is. It's a really good thing for homeowners, especially older homeowners, people who have owned their house for a very long period of time, even younger homeowners, because keep in mind, if you bought your house for say $500,000 and in a year your neighbor sells his house for $600,000, if you didn't have Prop 13, your property taxes would essentially go up to whatever the new value of your home is. And because the neighbor just sold for $600,000, in theory, that's about what your house would be worth, assuming they're like properties. So your taxes would go up. So Prop 13 keeps you in a more comfortable position. It keeps your taxes from going up more than that 2% a year. And people on fixed incomes, people who have set a budget, this keeps them being able to stay within that budget. So, if you have additional questions about Proposition 13, comment below, send me a message directly. I'm happy to address them. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you haven't already, if you're still watching, like the video, subscribe to my channel. It helps. And as always, I do appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.